See wherever they are whenever they. Here's to them.
Judy, could you just turn your camera on if you're there?
Yeah.
All right, Eileen, let's roll.
In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and mailing to the officially designated newspaper. A list of the meeting dates annually indicating that this meeting would be taking place on Monday, May 2nd at 7 p.m. via Zoom webinar. Jody Sharma?
Here.
Joe Steinberg? Joe?
Here.
Steve Toger?
Here.
Wolfgang Tatoris?
Can you hear me? I said here.
Wolfgang. Here,
Yeah.
yes. Chandru Harjani?
Here.
Ashley Avigdor?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Jessica Blatt?
Here.
Chairman Craig Whitner?
Here. So we first have approval of 2 sets of minutes to go through. For the minutes of 3/21/22, any corrections or changes to that set? And I guess say who's eligible, but you do a voice vote on these.
Eligible are Amy, Jody, Joe, Steve, and Wolfgang, Craig.
Okay, Amy's not here, so the rest of you are eligible. So can I have a motion to adopt the minutes of 3/21/22?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Is that Wolfgang?
Yeah. Who moved them?
Joe, I
So
believe.
did.
Oh, okay, fine. Got it. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion passes. Next, we have the minutes of 4/4/22. Any corrections or changes to that set of minutes? And who would be eligible on that to vote?
Everyone's eligible.
Okay, so in that case, can I have a motion?
I move approval of the minutes from April 4th, 2022.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. We'll next move to our memorializations. We have 3 of those that were circulated.
We just,
I think we only have
just
two.
have 2.
Yeah.
Just
um,
2. Okay,
Just
sorry.
2.
My-
Stein's will be on for the next meeting.
Got it. Okay, so we have 3859 and 3860.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, because I had 3 on my list. Okay,
Yeah, I thought there would be, but we're just the two tonight.
no problem. So starting with calendar 385922, Ilir Mujalovic at 23 Dorset Lane in Short Hills. This was a denial from what I remember. So any corrections or changes to that memorialization? Who's eligible to vote on this?
Jody, Joe, Steve, Wolfgang, Chandru, Jessica, Craig.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adopt that memorialization?
Move approval.
And a second?
Second.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tatoris,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Craig Whitner.
Yes. Next up, we have calendar 386022, Zingbu Zoo, Inalu, 20 Great Hills Terrace, Short Hills. Any corrections or changes to that memorialization?
Eligible are Jody, Steve, Wolfgang, Chandru, Ashley, Jessica, Craig.
Can I have a motion in that case?
Move approval?
Second.
Thank you.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutores,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Ashley Abigdor,
yes,
Jessica Blatt,
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes. Okay, so in that case, we'll be moving on to our applications. First up this evening is calendar 385221, Avats and Christian at 10 Stewart Road in Short Hills.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Samantha Alfonso here on behalf of the applicants, Neha Krishan and Ashish Vance.
Good evening, Ms. Alfonso.
Thank you for having us back again and for giving us the opportunity to take a chance and confirm our numbers and confirm with Ms. Davitt our calculations for the coverage.
Great. Looks like you tightened up the number of variances too, right?
We still are requiring the 3 variances, as Ms. Davitt had explained. I will show her our calculations and Ms. Davitt's explanation of the existing variances required currently.
Okay, because your attachment E shows 2.
Sorry?
Your attachment E shows 2 variances. Accessory structure and pool equipment in the side yard.
Yes, so with the last hearing and discussions with Ms. Davitt, I understand we require 3 variances, one for 609.1E, the pool equipment location, which is required to be at 36 feet setback.
Yeah, you're at 11.
We're at 24 feet. The existing 11.1 feet is the AC unit. I know our plans will require revisions on that zoning chart, but it's actually a lesser variance that we need. I understand that variance is just to the pool equipment, which is the 24 feet on the southeast side. I could show the plans if I may.
No, I'm just trying to get straight what you're asking for here, because my attachment E shows that you're looking for a pool equipment location variance, which is proposed usage at 11 feet off the property line, so 25-foot deviation, and an accessory structure located in the side yard, which is obviously the pool itself.
Correct. So the accessory pool equipment is at 24 feet from the side lot line. 11.1 foot noted previously is actually to an existing AC unit. And I understand we do not need a variance for that.
Okay, but what's the third variance?
The third variance is the total accessory coverage, which 20% is permitted. And we are at 59.2%. Ms. Davitt's calculation was around 57.8%. And we are actually a little bit, we believe just a little bit over once we went through the real survey and survey data. I understand we do want to ask for that little bit of extra on top of Ms. Davitt's number, just in case ours is a little more accurate.
Okay, because your request, the letter of request, okay, is asking for 6091A, 6091E, and 6091C. But your attachment E asks for 6091B and 6091E.
I understand. There was a mistake with the original application filing, and we would like to hear by the board amend our application to add that variance if possible.
Okay, so was that how was the notice given, Eileen? Was it sort of a broad notice, or was it specific?
So we did mention this during the last hearing, and I think Mr. Simon might have another comment on this. I don't want to speak for him, but perhaps we could discuss that notice with the additional language that we included to allow for any necessary amendments or additional variances that may arise during the course of the hearing.
Their notice indicates request variance relief from the application of the requirements of the development regulations regulating the location of an accessory structure, mechanical equipment setback, and event necessary to permit accessory structures to occupy an area greater than 20% of the rear yard area. Also notice rear yard unoccupied, which they actually don't need. But
Yeah,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the matter, and I think that especially given where we were in the testimony last time, the notice, the fact that the original attachment B provided by Ms. Davitt did identify all three variances, I believe that the notice is sufficient for the applicant to proceed tonight.
Good, then let's get going. So you have your,
Thank you.
anyone else needs to be brought over, or you have your professional and you have your homeowner?
Yes, thank you.
Great. All right, floor is yours.
I actually was going to see if the board had any questions. If not, we can go straight to Mr. Nusser, and I have to apologize for two items here. I had a chance to confirm Mr. Nusser. I kept calling him Mr. Nasser. I apologize for that. And two, about our landscape plan that we filed and we mentioned last hearing, that is a condition of the Historic Preservation Committee approval as well. And we agreed to have that as a condition to the approval here. I made a mistake and named Mr. Sage as a landscape architect when in fact he is a licensed tree expert. He does have landscape architect background and education, but his license is actually tree expert. So we did not have him testify last hearing. I just mentioned it during the course of the last hearing, and I just wanted to correct my mistake here for the record.
Will he be testifying this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Very well, then. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Mr. Nusser, and I understand he was qualified last hearing, but if the board would like to hear his qualifications again.
No, I think we're okay on that, so you can continue.
Okay.
And sir, just to recall that you remain sworn from last time.
Thank you. Mr. Nusser, can you just go through what we just explained, right? The three variances that you're requesting and that coverage in particular.
Excuse me one second. Joe, could you mute your microphone, please? You're getting a lot of feedback through. Sorry, Ms. Alfonso, please continue.
That's all right. Thank you. Mr. Nusser, could you please go through just that one calculation for the board that we first spoke with Eileen about, that 59.2%. Is that correct?
That's correct. I had the surveyor check it exactly at the area, and it's the pool and the patio add up to 59.2% of the rear yard. As the rear yard is by the location of the house and the configuration of the lot is much smaller than normally would be. So
it puts our improvements in the technical side yard, as Ms. Davitt mentioned, right?
well, the function, it's our function. Technically the side yard. Technically the side yard. And we're less than 20% of the side yard. So.
And Rick, Mr. Nusser, if you could please explain that the variance we require for the location of the pool equipment, that a pool equipment is located at 24 feet from the side lot line?
Yes, that's where it's shown on the plot plan. It's 24 feet from the line, whatever the line would be called.
So it's
But
southern.
it's
lot
24
line,
feet off.
Right, the southeast lot line.
Right.
And, excuse me. Okay, and the 11.1 feet that originally was noted, that's actually for the existing AC unit?
On the other side of the structure, yes.
Yes,
And the house itself is 11 feet from what is the rear line? Technical rear line.
and all of these variances really relate back to this odd configuration of the lot. And that really creates the practical difficulty that the applicants see here, right?
Correct. It's a unique lot and positioning of the house that was previously approved, creates a hardship on placing anything in the rear yard. The rear yard that is there is not occupied. There's zero occupancy of the rear yard that's there, the technical rear yard.
Mhm.
But it does create a hardship for because of the unique shape and positioning of the house. And it doesn't create any negative criteria. No substantial negative from granting the relief for the variance, because the pool and the patio will be located between the building.
Do you have maybe an exhibit you'd like to bring up to
Yes.
illustrate this?
Yes, if I can show the plan,
Sure.
would you mind if I share my screen? I kept one screen today. Okay. Can you see the plan?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you. You can also see my little cursor here.
correct.
Thank you. This is the 24 feet noted to the proposed pool equipment on the, and here I'll show the little arrow, the southeast area of the home. And Rick, can you see as well? Yes,
Yes, the 11-foot would be on the survey. If you can go to
Yeah.
the survey.
but it's too, okay. That's this, right?
Right.
Or-
Right.
Here it is. You can see a little better here. 11.1 is the house. And there's also AC right here.
Oh, yeah.
I actually
11.2.
11.2 there, the AC. Thank you. But those are existing, is that right?
That's correct.
Ms. Alfonso, can you show and first of all, is this is a plan that was previously submitted to the board?
Yes.
There's been no revision since the time of the submission,
No, there have not.
right? And then can you please identify the location of the 24 feet versus the 36 feet for the pool equipment?
Sure. So,
Or have Mr. Nusser do so?
yeah,
But you have the cursor, so I figured it's easier.
thank you. This is where the 24 foot is to the proposed right here, pool equipment. There is actually existing AC here. It looks like, or something, but that's gonna be replaced with the pool equipment. And this existing AC on the, excuse me, I'm sorry, I need to this way. On the southeast side of the home, to the side lot line, is the proposed 24-foot setback requiring a variance to the pool equipment.
Mr. Nusser, is that considered a front yard?
Well, we have a 25-foot side yard setback line. Yes, that's considered front yard. It says FSBL, front setback line.
So that's a pre-existing nonconformity as well.
Thank you. Is there any more testimony from Mr. Nusser, Ms. Alfonso?
Thank you. The one item I think that the board wanted to hear too is this house, this existing home is the U-shaped existing house, correct? That I have my cursor on right now.
Correct. It's a U-shaped house and there's a patio in between the U, which is being replaced by a pool and a patio.
Thank you. That's all I have for Mr. Nusser, unless the board has any questions of him or would like to hear anything further.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Nusser? Okay, go ahead.
I think my only remaining question, Mr. Nusser, is to confirm for the board again, this pool that's proposed is really to bring the yard and everything into modernity, consistent with the neighbors, right? It's an average size pool, an average patio proposed.
That's correct. It's not an excessive pool. It's in keeping with the neighborhood.
And I'm not sure if the board wanted to see the exhibit that we had with Mr. Nusser's actual calculations that we had Ms. Davitt review and approve. But I could show that and mark it as an exhibit if you would like.
Let's
Well,
do
right-
that.
Right now, it's not part of the record, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can add it, if I may. And I think that this would be our first additional exhibit. I think everything else has been filed previously. So how would you like to mark that? A1?
Let's mark this as A1. Can you please describe it with a date, please?
Thank you. Rick, I don't think we have a date here, but I believe this was yesterday or Friday. You confirmed this, so April 30th, April 29th.
Yes.
Okay. April 29, 2022. And Rick, can you just, again, right, I know the rear yard.
It's a coverage calculation for 10 Stewart Road, Short Hills, showing the rear yard area existing and the side yard area and the pool and pool equipment area, and then a calculation of the percentage of the rear yard and a percentage of the side yard.
So, and that really doesn't really apply here, as Ms. Davitt explained, right? But it's
Right.
really just to show the comparison.
Because the pool is actually in the side yard, not in the rear yard.
Right.
So it meets the intent of the ordinance of having 20% of the area behind the house.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, it's the permitted amount.
Thank you, Mr. Nusser.
Ms. Alfonso, you provide this to Eileen? You haven't
Yes,
already done so?
yes.
So would you say there's a hardship based on the location of the house on the property?
It's the shape of the property and the location of the house on the property, yes.
Right. Anything further, Ms. Alfonso?
I do not have anything further, Mr. Chairman.
Does anyone have any questions? You can finish the screen share. You can shut that off.
Thank you.
Any board members have any questions regarding this application? Anyone in the audience have any questions for Mr. Nusser, Ms. Alfonso? I see none. I mean, Mr. Akey's had his hand up the whole time, but we'll deal with that in a minute.
Is that person not wanting?
He's an
to
applicant.
participate?
He's an applicant,
Oh,
another
okay.
applicant. So okay. And I'll close the public portion of the meeting. So board members, what say you?
So the board's aware this application is being presented as a C1 application due to an exceptional condition pertaining to the property or existing structures located on the property. And as you know, they also have to provide proof sufficient to satisfy the negative criteria without a showing that the variances can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zoning plan and zoning ordinance.
I'll go ahead and kick it off then. Having visited the property and seeing the space, it seems that the property can easily handle this pool in terms of size. I don't think there's any sort of, it doesn't seem to be overreaching in terms of its scope or anything. And there really isn't another place, that you could put this. It seems to be very much a condition, the variance is very much caused by, the positioning, the shape of the lot and the positioning of the house. And so given those things, I would support this application.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Go ahead, Ashley.
I agree with everything Wolfgang said. And in addition, I don't see that it really causes any detriment to the neighbors after seeing the lot and where the patio and pool are going.
Thank you. Anything else?
I agree as well. And I think that there's absolutely a hardship here in terms of the property and where the house is located on it. You've got a big piece of property, but the placement of the house makes it nearly impossible to put in a pool or expand the patio without, the need for a variance. So I could support this application as well. I don't think that it would cause detriment to the neighborhood or any of the surrounding houses or anything. It's very private back there.
So I would agree with all the comments that are said. We have a lot here in the R3 zone that requires about 30,000 square feet and the lot's 62,000. So we have a rather oversized lot that clearly could accommodate this without negative impact on the neighbors. Clearly C1 variance as this, the lot and the house, the way it was put in sort of a flag shape, creates this unusual hardship. So I would support this application. So with that, does anyone want to move approval or otherwise of this application?
I move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Now, is everyone eligible to vote on this that's here tonight based on previous testimony, or was there really no previous testimony, Eileen?
They were all present for the last meeting.
Okay.
So they're all eligible.
Okay, great.
Yep, Chandra will be voting in place of Amy.
Okay.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutoris,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Blatt,
Yes.
Craig Klettner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Next, we'll be moving on to 58 Pine Street, calendar 385622, Chu Chen.
Mr. Chairman, this was another matter that was continued? Or no?
Yes, from,
Yes. Yes.
Doug, who do I need to bring over?
Rich Keller and the homeowners.
Oh, Chow, okay. I was looking for the wrong.
So everyone's available and eligible to vote on this, Eileen, from last time?
Did we hear any testimony?
No, we didn't have any testimony. We didn't have enough
There was no
numbers.
testimony.
Right.
Was the matter, was
a
the
date.
matter carried? It was carried,
Yes.
right, without
It's
further
carried.
notice?
Yeah, I think because there was a D involved and we didn't have We only had, I think we only had,
Yeah, we didn't have enough people to,
We didn't
well,
have
we
enough.
did, but it would have been a tough, yeah.
Okay, nobody was sworn in at that point?
I don't know.
I think we were. But I
Yeah,
don't,
I think, let's just double check if you don't mind.
He's sworn in.
Yep.
That's all as far as we got.
Okay, then in that case, we can get started. Who would like to proceed first?
I could, I don't know if you guys would like to say anything first?
Sure. We'd just like to very briefly introduce ourselves before turning it over to our architect, Doug. So my name is Wenxing Zhou.
And this is Wei Hong Chen.
And so we have been living in this house for 10 years. When we moved in, we were just the two of us. And now we have two children, age 8 and 4. We have a lot of respect for our house, which has given us the life that we have. And we also really appreciate our neighbors and our neighborhood. And so we would like to stay and make the house work for our current life going forward. So with the aim of preserving the character of the house and of the neighborhood, we're working with Doug, local architect, who's very familiar with the neighborhood. We've also discussed already the plans with our neighbors, some of whom are present here today. So please let us know if you have any questions, but if not at this point, we would like to then turn it over to Doug, our architect. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, I'm not sure, were you qualified in this case? Your credentials? I'm not sure if you were.
Yeah, we could go through that. And
Yeah,
I don't
let's
think
just do
Rich
that
Keller
quick.
was here last time either, so
No,
yes.
he was
we
not,
can.
no.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a licensed architect. I've been
Wait,
licensed.
let me just,
Wait.
let me
Oh,
just
yeah,
swear
sorry.
you both, let me swear you in first. You want to do them both at the same
Yeah,
time?
do them both, yeah.
Okay. Rich, you're muted. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, names for the record.
Douglas Miller, AHM Architects, 281 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey.
Richard Keller, Casey and Keller, civil engineers, planners, and land surveyors, and we're located at 258 Main Street, right across from Doug, here in Millburn.
All right, Doug, why don't you give us your qualifications first?
Yeah, I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey. I've been licensed since 2001. My license is in good standing. I've made a number of presentations to this board as well as a number of boards in the surrounding communities.
Thank you. And your current license is in good standing?
Yes, my license is in good standing and current.
Thank you very much. Your qualifications are accepted, so the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. So as my client said, they've purchased this house almost 10 years ago. And after living there for all those years and becoming active members in the community and with a growing family, they wanted to increase the size of their home to meet their needs. As they stated, they really like the feel of the original home, and they want the addition to look like it was always part of the home, almost constructed when the house was originally built. They came to me with modest goals of just expanding the rear of the house slightly to create a more practical kitchen, adding a small mudroom space, and then adding an addition over the first floor to create an additional bathroom on the second floor. Let me walk you through the plans, the same plans you have in front of you. So if I share my screen, I could bring those up and we could talk about them.
Feel free.
All right, so this is our sheet A1. It shows in the center, this is the existing survey, the existing house. On the side where this pochade or cross-hatched area is the area we're modifying. We're taking a small addition that was on the back of the house, removing it and bumping out the house approximately 6 feet 9 inches to create the addition. Our lot, as you can see by the zoning chart, is undersized for the R5 zone. It's only 6,513 square feet, where 14,500 square feet is required in the zone. So substantially smaller than required. It's approximately 58 by 113 feet, narrower and shallower as well as required in the R5 zone. There's a number of existing nonconformities. We have an existing non-conforming front yard setback, side yard setback on the second story, existing non-conforming side yard combined. A good portion of the building footprint is outside of the buildable envelope. The house is also sited not parallel to the lot lines. So any addition out the rear or the front, depending on where it was located, would be an intensification of the existing nonconformities. We also have existing non-conforming lot coverage due to this long driveway out the back to the detached garage. And we also have a close proximity between the house and the garage, which further limited our ability to expand the house. What we're asking for is modest. It's not the typical large family room, kitchen, great room combination that a lot of people want to put on these houses. We're really just asking for enough space to accommodate their needs of their growing family. The first floor on the top here, this is the existing. So it's made up of a dining room, a living room, a kitchen, and a kind of a family room space. And below is what we're showing the addition. So this is that 6.9 feet I just mentioned. We're bumping out, this existing space on the first floor and stretching it a little bit to the left to relocate this powder room. It's one of the smallest powder rooms I've seen. And so to make it a little bit more practical, we're adding the powder room here. And then this little area below is just a really small mudroom, some place to take off your shoes and drop your coat before you walk up and into the kitchen. We needed to provide some way to transition from the grade up to the first floor because there's a few stairs up. So we use this space inside to do that. So we're minimizing bulk, but also gaining program at the same time. On the second floor, it's 3 rooms with 3 bedrooms and 1 hall bath. This bedroom 3 here, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see how tiny it is. It's 8 by 8, 11. So it's really a nursery. We're calling it a bedroom 3, but it's really just almost a closet in most of the houses that you see in town. So what we're proposing is to build out over the first floor addition to create a primary bedroom, a closet, and a full bath. We're taking the existing nursery space and creating the whole bathroom. So we're using part of the space where the existing second floor bathroom is to make it part of the primary suite. We're requesting variances for side yard setback on the right side on the first floor. So for this intensification of the existing nonconformity in this area. We're also asking for additional side back because of the vertical intensification on the second floor here. Side yard combined because the existing is non-conforming. Building coverage, lot coverage, and FAR. All these are existing non-conforming except for the building coverage and the floor area ratio. Due to the existing setbacks, the existing driveway, the detached garage proximity of the home, left us really few options of how to expand this house without variance relief. Basically, there's no option to touch this house without variance relief because of all the existing nonconformities. So we looked at a number of ways to achieve their goals, and we tried to think about what would be the most sensitive to the site, most sensitive to the style of the house, and how we could achieve their goals by minimizing what we did. So, if we go back to the site plan, we couldn't really expand out this side because of the proximity of the garage. We couldn't expand to the left because of the driveway. And so this is really the only place we could expand. If we go to the elevations now, the house is almost exactly the same as the existing. In fact, you can't even see it from the street. We didn't draw the front elevation because there is really no change. We just have the 3 side views. We post-shaded the area that we're working on, even though a portion of the first floor is already there. What we tried to do is by aligning the facades of the house, by aligning the roof lines and the fascia, and then dropping the roof line on this side, having the gable face the rear, we minimize the height to side because the lowest part of our addition is, the lowest part of the roof line. So we felt that by dropping that down would preserve the light, air, and open space. And also, what's interesting, I have a photo board that I could submit. That's a new exhibit. I didn't submit it before, so we could kind of bring that in. If you want, do you want to mark this as A1?
Sure.
Okay.
And you'll, Mr. Miller, you're going to provide this to Ms. Dabbitt
I will.
at the end of the hearing.
Mhm.
Okay, so why don't you describe first, as for foundation purposes, what A1 is and provide a date of when it was created.
Let's see, we labeled it P1, I guess for photo one. The date on it is 3/20/22. And it's a number of pictures taken by myself showing the neighboring houses, as well as some views of the house from the rear yard. I also have an aerial view that I took from Google Maps just to show the kind of makeup of the street. And also a partial part of the tax map that I highlighted in yellow and orange. Rich Keller is going to talk more about the lot sizes and everything else, but I really focused my neighborhood to these 5 lots here. All the lots in the area are much larger, different size, different shape, and these 5 here were more consistent. There's also the school here, and along Wyoming, you have much larger properties. So, this corner lot on Wyoming and Pine, does not really fit into the makeup, nor do the other houses in the neighborhood. So these kind of were the closest to comparison. And you can see from these pictures, there's an eclectic mix of houses from different periods. Our house is from the early 1920s. You have some that are older. You have this kind of ranch style house with a garage under, Tudor revival. You have our house here, as well as the house to the right, and that has an addition already out on the 2nd floor. But you can see our house has a much smaller appearance from the street. And the interesting thing is, because the Pine is so steeply graded along the road, our house, even though we have a height to side variance, our addition is going to feel much lower compared to the house at 60, because we are down quite a few feet as the lots step down Pine. You can really see it in this central photo that shows 54, 56, and 58. So, there really is no consistency in scale, style, or anything on the street. And if you look at the rear, this picture in the center, looking at 56, their house is really pushed back almost into our backyard. So there really is no streetscape consistency. The back, you can see the house at 60 has an addition out the back. And from this photo, you can see how it really looms over us. Our house really feels much lower, even though we're going for that height to side. In general, even though the addition is going to add to the FAR, I don't think it's going to feel out of character for the neighborhood for all the reasons I just mentioned. I mean, if you look at 60 from the street, it seems much larger than our house. The addition out the rear cannot be seen from the street, so it's not going to really impact the streetscape at all. It's not going to impact the curb appeal. And so we're going to be improving the functionality of the house with this modern addition. We're going to bring the house more up to modern standards, but just the level to meet their needs. We're maintaining the character. And any other addition that we've proposed, I think, would require even additional variance relief. So these changes overall increase the usefulness of the home. I don't think they're a detriment to the community. And I want to turn over to Rich Keller so that he can talk more in depth about the neighborhood and a comparison of the setbacks of the surrounding houses. Unless the board has any questions for me.
Any questions for Mr. Miller at this point from members of the board? Are you going to continue to use the screen, or?
No, I can stop sharing.
Okay. Then if we're going to send it over to Mr. Keller, could you please indulge the board with your qualifications?
Good evening. I am a licensed engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed as an engineer and planner since before 1990. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from Rutgers University with a declared concentration in water resources and environmental engineering. And I also hold a master's degree in architecture with a concentration in urban planning and design. And that is from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I also taught in both graduate and undergraduate divisions for approximately 11 years. I've appeared before this board, the planning board, approximately 110 boards for the state of New Jersey. I've also been a planning consultant to the Borough of Caldwell Board of Adjustment, as well as an engineering consultant to both South Orange Village as well as Long Hill Township. And my licenses are both just arrived last week. They're both in good standing, just having finished 24 hours of credits of educational credits.
Thank you. Your qualifications are accepted. Please proceed.
I would actually like to share screen for just a second and go back to what Doug had up. I'll bring it up.
Sure.
This is going back to A1. I think that as Doug indicated, I'm just going to zoom in on the tax map for a second. The property is about 192 feet to the east, and as Doug said, downhill from Wyoming Avenue. It's the orange property, lot 11. About 150 feet from the Wyoming Elementary School. That school occupies about 40% of the block. Of the 5 lots that on Pine between Wyoming Avenue and the Wyoming School, they're all certainly undersized in terms of both lot area and lot depth as compared with the neighborhood, and certainly in terms of the zoning requirements. I would point out that actually there are no conforming residential lots in terms of area on block 207 that meet the R5 standards. And except for the lots that front on Wyoming Avenue, there are no lots fronting on Pine Street that even come close to the area requirements for the R5 zone. What is different though is that whereas our property is 6,613 square feet, where 14,500 is required, so about 45% of what's required, it's also shallower than required, where it's about 114 feet deep, where 125 feet is required. Most of the neighborhood, the lots behind us are approximately 150 feet deep, and the lots across the street from us are over 200 feet in depth. So it's, and as Doug said, it's actually irregular in shape in that the sidelines and rear lines are orthogonal, but they're skewed to Pine Street. And which is good planning at the time, and certainly the way we like to develop. When they place the house parallel with Pine Street, it means that it's twisted to the sidelines. So whenever you place an addition onto that irregularly shaped lot, it means one side is going to get closer to the lot lines than the other. And the way it works out with the logical space to place an addition on this home, it turns out that increased that deficiency. Just to go back over a couple of things that Doug said, you can see that whereas the lot next door had the ability to add on, and by the way, they're deficient in combined side yard as well, they added to the front of the house. We're proposing to add to the back of the house. So from the street view, the house will remain smaller in scale than the neighboring, and certainly not out of character with the neighborhood. We also look at the rear, as Doug indicated. Not only is Doug dropping the gable down, so it's a little lower when it gets adjacent to the neighbors, it pulls out into the backyard. You'll see the neighboring house, their 2-story addition only goes about 20 feet and it jogs back about another 10 feet. So the area that we're placing the proposed addition is immediately contiguous to the neighbor's driveway and a good distance away from the existing dwelling. I'll bring up my own exhibit right now, which we'll say would be A2. And this is an aerial photo. It is taken from nearmap.com. The image date is March 21st, 2021. We've superimposed the tax map. And since my firm has been doing surveys in the area since the late 50s or earlier, I did take the opportunity to superimpose some survey information that we had in our records, as well as some field measurements we took over the last few days. So if I was to zoom in on this exhibit, you'll see we'll go back to those 5 lots in question. You can see that with regard to the setbacks between the home, it's not uncommon in this neighborhood to have, even on the lots that are oversized relative to the block in front of Wyoming, it's not uncommon to have building distances between houses. Now, what we did is, since I had actual survey information, we adjusted for building overhangs and any parallax view resulting from the photogrammetry. So this is actual survey dimensions we took. Between the homes at 398 and 400, there's only 14 feet of difference between the two. One is 8.6 feet off the line, the other is 5.4, and those are, and if we look also at areas across the street, we did a survey across the street at between 59 and 57. You've got 14.4 feet between the two properties. You've got non-conforming side yard offsets, again, where between 12 and 16 feet is required. We're at 5.9 feet and 8.5. So this is fairly consistent with the neighborhood, where the setbacks between homes, where you'd expect by ordinance to have between, as I said, 24 and 32 feet of setback. It's not uncommon on the small side to have about 14 feet, and on the large side to have about 20 feet. On the existing properties we have, even though they are undersized as to the lot area and especially lot depth, you'll see that we maintain 20 feet between our property and the property at 56. And we also have 21 feet actually between our house and the property immediately adjacent to us uphill at 60 Pine. And you can see where we've superimposed the addition, where the two-story portion is currently at 5.8. And the one-story addition is at 5.5. Because of that skewed property line, irregular shape of the property line, when we push into the back, that gets down to just over 5 feet. We think it's 5.1. Doug calculated at 5 feet. We've noticed for 5 feet. But still, that separation between the proposed addition and the existing dwelling, the closest part of the dwelling that sits above us, or as Doug said, kind of looms above us, is 21.7 feet. And from the furthest point back to the closest point of the main house is actually 30.5 feet. So those distances certainly are much larger than we see throughout the neighborhood. So even though we are getting our proposed addition gets between 6 3/4 inches closer to the property line for this two-story portion. At this point, it gets, for the two-story portion, gets 10 inches closer to the property line from 5.8 down to 5. We think certainly, given its location at the back of the site, the back of the house, it'll be never be perceived from the street. Certainly on a 58-foot wide lot, you won't see that 5 to 11 inches or 5 to 10 inches having any impact whatsoever. You'll see also that the lots behind us, because they are, while they're all narrower than us, they're actually much larger, between 12,000, most of them being 7,500 square feet, the lots immediately behind us. And the lots across the street are all over 10,000 square feet. I would point out that for the size of our proposed house, if we were on a 7,500-foot lot, the variance relief for building coverage and floor area ratio would go away. And if we were on a 10,000 square foot lot, all the variances would go away. Certainly, if we were a conforming lot of 14,500, obviously no variances. But I think it's important to notice that even given the neighborhood, if we were just, we have actually the anomaly, or what's unique is we're actually a little wider than some of those other lots, but because we're so much shallower, so we're wider, so there's a perception that we have a more breathing room, but the reality is we have more variance relief required because we're just so short. That is not something that's necessarily perceived from the street. With regard to the, and again, I thought it was important, what Doug had indicated was that given the nature of the proposal, it's not a huge ask. The proposal is to create a usable kitchen that's appropriate to a home located in Millburn in 2022 as opposed to 1923. And it allows for a second bath and a master closet on the second floor. And these are certainly amenities that people expect to have in Millburn in any home, and allowing these owners to bring their home into contemporary fashion really only serves to help the neighborhood. There are no additional bedrooms proposed. As Doug said, no enlarged open family room blended into a kitchen like we see in so many of the applications. With regard to the planning proofs, obviously we need an FAR variance. That's a D4 variance. It requires a supermajority of 5 affirmative votes. And the reason is that floor area ratio is considered an intensity variance. And as an intensity variance, it's under a higher standard. I would point out, though, unlike commercial FAR, which is considered to be a metric of intensity of use of a property, residential floor area ratio is really a measure of the mass of the dwelling. And the criteria for an FAR variance is pursuant to the Randolph Town Center case, which follows the Coventry Square criteria. And using that criterion, the applicant must show that the site will accommodate the problems usually associated with an FAR larger than that permitted by the ordinance without substantial detriment to the neighborhood. And the usual problems associated with FAR being too large is overcrowding on the site, loss of light, air, and open space along the neighboring properties, and an overwhelming of the character and scale of the neighborhood. There's really no hard criteria. We have to look at each individual property and each architectural design. We think certainly given the design imperatives that Doug followed in the handling of the roof line and the placement of the mass on a difficult site certainly serves to break down that mass or make that mass so it's certainly not felt on the property. We think that the FAR is a modest increase of about 455 square feet of over 2 floors. It's only 249 square feet over that permitted, or 3.76%. We think that that will never be felt or perceived from the neighborhood. The house will feel just like the rest on the block. Again, the mass is at the back of the home along the neighbor's driveway. The gable has been turned sideways so that it doesn't, there's no mass that provides excess shade and shadow on the neighbor. And the topography, again, helps to minimize that feeling. I'm going to do all the negative criteria together. We obviously need C variance relief for building coverage, lot coverage, as well as combined side yard setback. These all fall under the C1 criteria in our opinion. C1 applies where the undersized nature of the lot, the irregular shape, and the location of the lawfully existing structures creates a hardship in upgrading this property without the need for variance relief. So in terms of the undersized nature, it's in both area, width, and depth. The irregular shape goes to the non-perpendicular lot lines, and the location of the lawfully existing structures, obviously, we're already deficient in combined side yard and side yard setbacks, as is pretty much the entire neighborhood. It would be, as Doug said, pretty much impossible to add to the house in a reasonable and aesthetically appropriate manner without the need for variance relief, even though this application is very restrained given what we often see in town. With regard to the building coverage, the need for variance is driven by the significantly undersized lot area. Also, the freestanding garage at the back of the property, the lawfully existing structure, adds additional building over a house where it had an integrated garage, such as some of the ones that face Wyoming. Lot coverage, we're already over on lot coverage due to the freestanding garage at the back of the property, because as Doug said, we need that long garage, the long driveway, excuse me, that gets to the, here we are, long driveway that gets to the back, and it's fairly tight in maneuvering already in the back area. Lot coverage is also exacerbated by the significantly undersized lot area. Again, we're only adding 127 square feet of new lot coverage, which is fairly minor. Side yard setbacks. The existing dwelling is already non-conforming as the side and combined side yards. So any extension of the existing dwelling will exacerbate those non-conformities. So the variance is driven by the irregular lot configuration, again, being parallel to the street and twisted to the side yards, twisted to the side yards. You can see as we extend, even nominally, any nominal extension will decrease that side yard setback. And then obviously the location of the lawfully existing house. If the house was over 5 feet, we wouldn't have that issue. But obviously we're dealing with a home that was built in 1923. Clearly it predates the R5 zoning criteria, but what we're doing is certainly consistent with the neighborhood. And again, we're really only moving ourselves 6 3/4 inches closer to the property line. With regard to the negative criteria required for all variance relief, both the C and the D variances, we think there's no substantial detriment to the public good. The architect, I can stop sharing now. The architect has done a good job in making what we think is a modest addition to bring the home up to contemporary standards in terms of program. Again, no additional bedrooms are being created, no additional intensity of use is being achieved. From the street, the house will feel completely consistent with other homes in the neighborhood. And obviously, if the lot were compliant with the lot area, lot width, we would not need variance relief. In this case, if the lot was simply the same as those surrounding it, the ones behind us, the need for variance relief would be eliminated. If the subject property were 8,600 to 10,000 square feet, none of the variances, building coverage, FAR, or lot coverage would be required. If the property was as deep as those directly across from Pine Street, again, these would all go away. Since the differences in lot depth are not perceivable from the street, the public would, in our opinion, have no clue that the proposed house was not consistent with zoning. And the lots in the immediate area, except for the corner lots, are existing non-conforming lots, with most being only 50 foot wide. The result is that much of the neighborhood routinely has, as I said, between 14 and 20 feet between the adjoining homes, nowhere near the 24 to 32 feet required by code. So since we're a little bit wider, the irony is that there's a little more space between the adjoining homes than is typical to the neighborhood. So while we are undersized, we're actually a little bigger, as I showed in the exhibits, than our neighbors, which helps the property feel like it breathes better and helps both the proofs for the FAR as well as the side yard setback variances. The impact on the closest adjoining home will be minimal due to, again, the driveway configuration, the configuration of the home. So we certainly think there's no substantial detriment to the public good. Most people will not even know it's there. It'll look just like a norm, like it's always been there, which was the goal of the client and Doug. There's also no substantial impairment to the master plan or the zoning plan. From the 2018 master plan reexamination, the first goal was to promote the character of the township as a small suburb of the highest quality, with objective 1.01 being to protect the character of established residential neighborhoods and encourage land uses that are at an appropriate scale and density. We think the size of the home is certainly consistent with the neighborhood. Both building coverage, FAR, lot coverage, and setbacks are consistent. The proposed improvements are modest in scope and scale and really only seek to bring the home up to current market standards with typical amenities that any Millburn resident would expect. We believe this is beneficial to the neighborhood and the community at large. We think that this is a well-restrained, one of the most elegant and restrained plans I've seen in a long time on these very difficult lots. And we think it meets the proofs in terms of positive and negative criteria in support of both the D4 and the C1 variances. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Rich, how large is the garage?
The garage is 100 and hold on. Garage, I think, is 100 and that's 225 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small garage, but it still adds, so it's not tucked in under like we have in other areas.
Right. So that contributes to your FAR.
Oh yeah, contributes to FAR, contributes to building coverage and lot coverage.
Right. Any questions from the board for the professionals? Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
So Richard, part of your testimony was when you were defining the criteria, and if you could bring up that aerial photo again, please. How it impacts light and sight of the neighbors. And it's just my recollection that the addition goes deep into the backyard, relatively speaking, and certainly relative to the neighbors left and right. And I was sort of had the impression that it could negatively impact the neighbors on the left and the right, just in terms of light and view and how far back into how far back into the applicant's backyard the addition goes relative to the neighbors. If you could just speak to that, please.
Yeah, certainly. Well, with regard to the neighbors to the rear, I think Doug's photo board showed that there's existing evergreen and deciduous screening that well blocks us from the back, and obviously those.
The neighbors to the left and the right.
Okay. With regard to the left and the right, certainly as we're looking at it, right side of the drawing, left side as you're looking at the front of the house from Pine, there's really no impact. If you look at the depth of the addition, you can almost draw a line from the house at 54 to the back of the house at 56 through the back of the proposed house at 58 that then sort of connects to the house at 60. So the fact that they went this property, when they did their multiple additions, went narrower, both towards the driveway and towards the other side, which is significantly smaller. The house still feels much larger. Given the orientation of the back of the house, the windows are primarily at the back. Both, we don't think that has any significant impact. There are some windows, but really has no significant impact on the view shed. And again, that's partially mitigated by the fact that the house sits a few feet lower than the adjoining home at 60 Pine. So will there be a change? Certainly. But the depth of the property, certainly, as Doug showed on the buildable envelope, if I go back to Doug's drawing, you can see the buildable envelope goes considerably into the backyard. We didn't want to go anywhere near that, but it's certainly, we don't need any variance for the depth. We only need the variance for the side yard. The house is already 5.5 feet off. We're really only changing that by 6 3/4 inches. And again, I don't think that, I wouldn't say that the neighbor is not going to see it, but I don't think it's going to have any negative impact. Their lawn is primarily behind the main body of their house, nestled in between their 2-car garage. So certainly no shadow, shade, no negative impact on their usable portion. It may sort of impact if they've got 2 or 3 cars parked in the driveway. They're going to have a car that's parked next to our driveway, the same as a lot of these houses have cars that are parked in close proximity to the house. Again, we're one of the rare properties, and we actually have 21 feet between them. So I'm not saying that it won't be seen, but I certainly think it'll have no negative impact on the neighbor, and it'll certainly be consistent with the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Keller or Mr. Miller? In that case, I will open it up to the public to see if there's any questions from the public regarding this case. Do not see any. So in that case, I will, anything else you have, Mr. Miller or Mr. Keller?
No, thank you.
Mr. Miller, you're all set?
Yeah, no, thank you. All
Okay.
set.
Then in that case, I will, any comments from the audience regarding this case? I don't see any, so I will close the public portion of this application. Board members, what comments do you have? Go ahead, Joe.
Generally speaking, if I see an application that has this many variances, it tells me, generally speaking, that the applicant should just move out of the house and go get another house if they need more room. But I think that for all the reasons that have been suggested and stated by Mr. Keller and Mr. Miller, this is a very peculiar area of town, and I would be in favor of this application.
Thank you, Joe. Other comments?
I would support this application as well. It's extremely tastefully done. I think it meets the statutory criteria to satisfy all of the variances that they are seeking, and I would definitely be in favor of it.
Thank you.
Steve?
Oh, sorry. Steve and John.
Yeah, I mean, it's a modest, it's a very reasonable application. The concern I had was surrounded by the question I asked Mr. Keller about impact on neighbors. I think he answered that quite adequately, so I can easily support the application.
Great. Chandra.
Likewise, I would support the application given the undersized lot and all the hardships with this lot in the area. And I think the increases are modest, and I think they're only befitting for the current tastes in, for the family living there. So absolutely supportive of this.
Thank you. Any further? I too would agree with the comments that were made. I think this is a reasonable application based on, giving the homeowner what they need. They're not asking for giant rooms or anything excessive. It's just a way to make the house a little bit more modern and up to today's living standards, giving the difficult conditions that this lot provides. So I think it's a well thought out application. I would support it. So with that, do I have a motion in this case?
Craig, do we need to break it up for the D?
Oh yeah, do you want to break the D variance out separate?
Yeah, can we just do that, please? And
Absolutely.
just remind the board that, as was stated, I believe by Mr. Keller, that the applicant needs 5 affirmative votes to gain approval for purposes of the FAR or the D variance under D4 of the municipal land use law 55D-70. So why don't we do them separately, please?
So we have a full board this evening, so voting board. So we'll start with the floor area ratio portion of this application. So is there a motion regarding the floor area ratio?
I move approval of the floor area ratio.
Do I have a second? Chandra with this. Oh, sorry.
Second.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Petner.
Yes. Next, we will bulk the remaining 5 C variances together for lot coverage, building coverage, side yard combined, side yard setback, right side and side yard setback. That's interesting. They show twice. Left side, I assume.
I will move those applications. I will move them.
Okay, so we have Joe move approval of that. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Petner.
Yes. Congratulations and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your support.
Okay, next up, we have 93 Slope Drive, application 386122, Dennis Hickey. Ashley will be recusing from this application.
Ashley, right, okay.
Okay.
Right, I'm gonna bring everyone over. Let's see, I need, Mr. Prato, I believe you're sitting in for Mr. Goodman tonight, correct?
That's correct. Good evening, yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm appearing on behalf of Gary Goodman, on behalf of applicant Dennis Hickey. We were here previously, I believe in November, and there were some issues and concerns which I think we've addressed, and I would like at this time, with your consent, to introduce Mr. Anthony Gallerano.
And he'll be testifying as what this evening?
Correct.
And in what capacity?
Professional engineer.
Okay, thank you. We'll just see his qualifications if you could do that for us.
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman,
And
can I
you'll be
ask
sworn
quick-
in. So.
I'm sorry, yeah, let's get him sworn in.
Okay.
Mr. Prieto, you mentioned an application in November. Is this a continuation or is this a new application?
You're gonna have to forgive my ignorance on that, Mr. Simon. I believe it's just been some modifications to a previous application.
No, this is actually a new application. The applicant actually withdrew, Mr. Goodman withdrew the application at the last time. And this was a brand new application submitted, similar but much different. I will just leave it at that, but it is a brand new application.
Okay, so let's get everybody sworn in again, or for the first time.
Okay. Anyone who's going to testify, if you just raise your right hand.
Mr. Hickey, will you be testifying?
I'm actually just here to watch, but
Okay, that's fine. Sure.
Okay, Mr. Gallerano, do you swear affirm testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
You would just state your name for the record.
Sure. It's Anthony Gallerano.
Good evening, Mr. Gallerano. Can you please give the board the benefit of your educational background and training and what you do for a living?
Sure. Actually, I'll be testifying as both an engineer and a planner tonight. I have a degree from New Jersey Institute of Technology in civil engineering. I graduated in 1984. I've been licensed as a professional engineer and professional planner since 1988. Since then, I have testified throughout the state of New Jersey at various boards. I've also testified before this board previously. I also provide municipal engineering and municipal planning services. I currently serve as the municipal engineer for the Borough of Kenilworth and the board planner and board engineer for the Board of Adjustment for the City of Elizabeth.
Are your certifications in good standing?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. The board accepts your credentials.
Thank you. So just again, I know there was initially there was a question as whether this was a continuation or a new application. So this is a new application. As Ms. Davitt pointed out, the applicant was here in November for a similar, but again, much different application. The previous application was for a swimming pool and with the patio, outdoor kitchen, and fire pit. That application was withdrawn, so there was actually no decision by the board on that application. I'd like to do is just go right to a share screen and bring up the drawing. So this is the plan that was submitted to the board. This is not modified at all. It's the exact copy of the plan that was submitted. So this property again is located 93 Slope Drive. It's identified as Lot 7, Block 3101. It is situated at the corner of Oxford Drive. What I'm showing on the screen now is the existing conditions. As you can see, there's a single-family dwelling fronting on Slope Drive. There's a driveway access also from Slope Drive to a side entry garage. This is located in the R3 zone. It has a lot area of 20,564 square feet. It is slightly undersized for the zone. Currently, there is a patio in the rear of the house, which actually, per your ordinance, because it's a corner lot, would actually be considered a side yard. But it is located behind the house. Again, this is approximately about 393 square feet in area. So what the applicant is proposing, again, I'm going to move to the proposed conditions, and this is to the right side of the plan sheet. I'm just going to zoom up a little bit. So what the applicant is looking to do is to basically remove the existing patio, construct a new patio comprised of brick pavers. The new patio will be 1,325 square feet. Situated on the patio is proposed a fire pit to the right, which will be in a circular configuration. Approximately in the center of the patio, an outdoor kitchen with a pergola, and then to the left, a hot tub, which is about 8 foot by 9 foot in dimensions. Also extending from the patio will be a walkway which will extend to the side of the house, and that's basically to allow access from 2 side doors on the north side of the house, which they're basically 2 French doors which exit out. And right now they just exit out onto the grass. So the applicant would like to extend that walkway basically to tie those into the patio. For the purpose of the application, we weren't sure if that walkway would be considered part of the patio. It would just be basically a walkway leading to the patio. So for the purpose of the application, we took a conservative route, and we basically included that walkway as to be considered part of the patio. So all of our coverages, dimensions, etc., all relate to the patio as a whole. Again, accounting for that walkway to be considered part of the patio. We're also going to propose or proposing some shrubs, new shrubs around the side of the patio and around the side of the walkway. This portion of the yard is actually already screened with a row of evergreens which extend along that back property line and then continue to Oxford and then kind of close in the side of the yard along Oxford Drive. So I don't know if anybody remembers the original application. The pool was kind of situated in this side yard off of Oxford Drive. We kind of took the board's feedback, and obviously the applicant has opted to, to eliminate the pool, but would like to, to proceed with the application for the patio. There are, again, several variances associated with this, why we're here tonight for the board. And we're presenting these as C2 variances. Keeping in mind that, the corner lots do provide some practical difficulty with the two front yards. And if you look at based on the orientation of the house, wherever the original builder was decided to front this house on slope and not on Oxford. And that positioning of the house really limited the usable area behind the house. So unfortunately, most of the open areas in the front yard, and again, having limited area in the rear yard, which is actually considered the side yard, but for practical purposes, that's the rear yard area behind the house. So with that, the variances that are required, first and foremost, a accessory structure is not permitted in the front yard. And this patio, a portion of this patio is situated in the front yard. And again, that portion really just being the extension of the patio to the side doors facing Oxford Drive. The minimum side yard for an accessory structure is 12 feet, and setback of 6.4 feet is proposed to the patio, and a setback of 8.3 feet to the pergola. The minimum setback from the street for a corner lot to an accessory structure is 2 times the required front setback, or 80 feet minimum in this case. So measuring from the Oxford Drive to the walkway is 62.8 feet. However, if we were to measure that from Oxford to the actual patio, or the main part of the patio, that setback would actually be 77 feet. And from slope, again, measuring to the walkway, there's a setback of 69.7 feet proposed. However, again, if we were to measure from slope to the patio, that would have a minimum setback of 88 feet. So again, we took the conservative approach, measured everything to the walkway, but I guess there can be an argument that the patio and the walkway could be considered separate. But again, we're treating them as one. So again, these are considered C2 variances. And again, we are going to present the proofs for the C2 variances.
Mr. Gallerano, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure, absolutely.
You've said C2 3 times, but yet you were talking a little bit about the existing conditions of the principal structure in relation to the fact that it's a corner lot. Don't you want to also provide some proofs for C1 as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to, again, we were taking the conservative approach and looking at them from C2. I do believe that, yeah, the orientation of the house does create some practical difficulty, does create somewhat of a hardship. But also with the acknowledging that if this house had been initially constructed facing Oxford, probably there would be more usable area in the rear. So that's why I don't want to just rely on the C1 criteria, because just acknowledging that this house could have been orientated differently. Again, this applicant did not build the house, so he had no control over how the house was orientated. So yeah, so I think looking at, again, it is an undersized lot. There's really not much unusual about the shape, but just the fact that it is undersized does create somewhat of a hardship along with the orientation of the house. But if there was a disagreement or was not, again, not everybody was in agreement that it was a C1, I do believe that the special reasons do exist for the granting of the C2. Again, starting with the negative criteria, I don't see any negative impact on the, again, adjoining properties. The majority, again, the bulk of this patio is situated behind the house. It is already screened with existing evergreens, and the applicant will be providing some additional shrubs just to add some additional aesthetics to the north side facing Oxford Drive. So essentially, looking from slope, you really won't see the patio at all. And looking from Oxford Drive, there is some visibility, but however, most of that is obscured by the existing evergreens. So I do believe that this application would not have any detriment to the public good and not have a substantially impact the intended purpose of the zone plan. And again, just looking at the purpose of zoning, whether special reasons exist, I think under paragraph G of the purpose of zoning, I do believe that purpose is advanced. So with that, I really don't have any other direct testimony. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
How high are the trees going to be at time of planting above the root ball?
Probably about 3 feet at the time of planting.
Okay. Is the hot tub below grade or above grade?
That's above grade. So that's kind of a standard hot tub that just would sit actually on top of the patio.
Okay, and the pergola, tell me a little bit about that.
So that's basically, again, it's going to be a open, structure. It's really more decorative, and it'll be basically over this. Look at the exhibit. There's this heavy dark line which kind of sits over the outdoor kitchen, and it's just, again, the pergola has a open roof, which is more decorative.
Approximately how high does it stand?
Probably about 7 to 8 feet above the patio.
Okay.
I have a question or just a clarification. So I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if everyone was aware, but when I visited the property, the AC units and the generator, they're not being moved. So the hot tub, right, if you can remember it, the hot tub is, between the group of AC units and the property line. At first, I thought the AC units and generator might be being moved because they're not highlighted in the proposed drawing. They're highlighted in the original. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that the hot tub is on the other side of the AC units and the generator.
So you can sort of see them in there. Yeah.
Yeah, you see them in there, yeah, but they're not labeled. So yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of their light. So yeah, the proposal is that those will remain in place.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you finished with this drawing? Just stop sharing. We can go back to our group view for any further question. Any other questions from the board for Mr. Gallerano?
Craig, if I just could for the, I did not cite the walkway as part of the accessory structure. I just don't. So the 6095 is just strictly the accessory structure shall be set back 80 feet. The front yard really hasn't played an issue. It just doesn't meet the 80 feet from Oxford, or
Right.
12 feet from the property line. The patio, the walkway itself is not, I would not include that as part of the accessory structure. So it's technically not.
So Eileen, the fact that the patio, they're asking for a variance for patio in the front yard, you do not believe that that's required?
Well, that's not really, yeah, it's the same 6095, which says it has to be 80 feet and shall not be in the front yard. It's not in the front yard, but it's not 80 feet. So it's still the same section, but it's not in the front yard, in my opinion.
Okay. Any other questions from the board regarding this application or for Mr. Gallerano? From the public, any questions for Mr. Gallerano? Any comments from the audience on this application? I see none. Then I'll close the public portion. Any comments from the board?
I'll start. So I'm honestly, I'm very I'm confused kind of a little bit by this application, because on one hand, there's an awful lot being put into a relatively small space. And on the other hand, you can say, well, look, the space is pretty much useless anyway, so why not take advantage of it and throw in as much patio and pool and furniture, you know, as you possibly can. So I'm really torn on this. I'm not really certain which way to go. So I welcome the comments from other board members.
I guess I have a question for Eileen on this, because in question 19 of the application, it says, has there been any previous appeal, request, application made to this or any other township board regarding this property? He says no. But I mean, really the answer is yes. I mean, or
Yeah, I mean,
because it's so different.
That was revised in the applications. I don't know if you got, I did make them change that. It does say an application was made to the zoning board for bulk variances for a new pool and patio. The application was heard and was withdrawn by the applicant.
Okay.
I apologize if you did not get that, but there were several versions of this application.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. So I guess then, seeing the site firsthand, it seems like like as Steve was saying, it seems like a very logical use of that space. And furthermore, even though it's close to the property line, there's really not, it doesn't look like anybody would be disturbed on the other side of it. In fact, there's a pool, kind of kitty corner to where it's to where the hot tub's located. They do have evergreens along that property line, and they seem to be at least 10 feet high. And I don't believe the neighboring house is really close to this, so I don't see that it disturbs anybody. While it does add a lot of functionality and something very pleasing to the house itself.
There's no coverage issue here, correct, Eileen?
There is not.
No.
And there's no coverage issue, and actually the hot tub and the pergola are conforming in their location, so they were not cited as well.
So regardless of the intensity of use, it's conforming, so.
Those particular spots are, yes.
Thank you.
Craig, you were getting at what I was going to ask as well, which is that I didn't see that there was any coverage issue. Right. So, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, what you've got here is we've got a more standard accessory structure on a corner lot issue. And, there's, in my opinion, there's a clear hardship here. You've got a pretty substantial piece of property here, but, you've got that really tight official backyard. So, you're running into the accessory structure side yard setbacks. I think that this plan is definitely more palatable than the one that originally came before us. And I think I could support this application.
Yeah, when I look at this, it's interesting because the path chosen was a C2, but I really think, that doesn't conform under a C2 in particular, but I think it's a great example of a C1 variance. corner lots are inherently difficult to develop in terms of accessories. So to me, this sort of falls into that category where, there's not a coverage issue where too much is being asked, but it's really just location based on the anomalies of a corner lot. From a C2 perspective, I don't really see it as particularly detrimental to the zoning plan, and nor is it detrimental to the neighbors. So, clearly, I think it could exist in both a C1 and C2. I just happen to think it falls better under a C1 variance than a C2. But either way, I would support the application. Any other comments?
And just keep in mind that defined that the applicants met their burden of proof for a C2, they need to demonstrate in terms of the positive criteria that the proposal provides a better zoning alternative for the property than if the application was never brought before the board.
Right.
And that's why I was pressing on the C1.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It fits much, much better with the C1.
C1, yeah.
Yeah, it's a C1 application. Any other comments?
I would just add, that, yeah, it is good use. I think Steve mentioned that already, that it's good use of the backyard area, which is tighter given the side yard, the two side yards that the lot has. And I think it's a good use of the property, and would be supportive of this.
If there are no further comments, do I have a motion in this case?
Move
I move
approval.
approval.
Wolfgang on a second.
Yep, second.
Okay.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg. Joe,
Yes.
thank you. Steve Toger. Wolfgang Tatoris,
Yes.
Shadru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Rick Kleitner.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much for your time and appreciate your comments.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All righty.
She's back. Next up, we have calendar 386322, David Williams at 86 Cedar Street in Millburn.
James. I'm guessing this is. Don, is anyone else presenting with you?
Yeah, David.
David, I brought him
Yeah,
over. Okay.
he's here.
No, it's just the two of us.
Just, okay.
Okay. Good evening, folks.
All right, let's swear you both in first. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, if you just state your names first.
David
State-
Williams.
And John James, architect.
Who would like to start first?
I guess I'll start and kick it off. Thank you, everybody, for letting us present to you tonight. I'm David Williams. I've lived in the township for 17 years. My son went through school, K through 12, graduated a couple years ago. We're staying put. The goal of this project is to modernize and expand the home, my home, so to accommodate my new blended family of 5. And so we're looking to make an addition on the back of the house and reconfigure the internal configuration to add more privacy while maintaining the character of the house within the Wyoming district. And so we've worked with John and his team to conservatively make an addition that we thought was kind of worked best for the neighborhood and worked best for us. And so I guess I'll kick it over to John for more of the technical terms, but happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Mr. James, your credentials, please.
Yes, I have a bachelor degree from University of Virginia, a master in architecture for Columbia University. I'm the principal in an 8-person firm in Maplewood, New Jersey, registered in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. I've presented before this board and approximately 50 other boards in the state of New Jersey as an expert witness, and all of my licenses are currently intact.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Your
you.
credentials are accepted. Please proceed.
I'd like to share my screen here.
Go ahead.
And we're going to start with the drawings for David. So just as a summary up front, 86 Cedar Street, it's in the Wyoming Historic District. It was built in 1906. It's a good example of the vernacular in the area. We've previously been before the Historic Preservation Commission. We were there in February of this year, and we received a unanimous approval for the drawings that I'm going to be showing you tonight. We're proposing an addition you can see here on the site plan. It's an owner's bedroom and bathroom suite addition on the back of the house. It's built on an existing 1-story portion of the house. And it's this portion of the work that requires our variance tonight. We're also adding a small pool terrace in the back here behind the existing one in the middle of the property with a small plunge pool. And we're doing a small expansion on the deck that for a grill on your way down to the driveway area. We're here tonight to ask for 3 variances, and all of these are due to existing non-conforming conditions on the existing house, the original house. The first one is the left side yard setback. The existing non-conforming house has a setback of 11.04 feet, where 12.83 feet is required. So it's a 1.79 foot variance. We're asking for variances on the right side of the house where the driveway is located. Currently, the setback is 10.7 feet at the back corner, where 13.9 is required. So it's a 3.2 foot variance. And the existing house ridge is at 33.75 feet because we have a sloping lot where we have a walkout basement in the back. And we're asking for one of our dormers on the 3rd floor to match that existing roof slope and ridge height. So we require a height variance of 1.75 feet to match the existing conditions on the house. We think that in order to complete the work properly and to really make this look like a part of the original house, we want to match the existing house setbacks and the ridge on the roof. And the hardship for our properties is really that we have an existing undersized lot. So where 14,500 square feet is the minimum lot size for R5, our lot's only 10,000 square feet. But all of our work conforms with the bulk zoning requirements in terms of coverages. But we have a 50-foot wide lot instead of a 75-foot wide lot. So in this case, the setbacks that we already have here are over 20% of the lot on each side. It's interesting to note that we do not require a combined side yard setback because our house is very narrow relative to the lot size. It's just that when you have 50 feet as opposed to 75 feet, you have very little room to compromise. And it would look very unusual if we stepped in the addition like 1 foot 9 inches on one side and 15 inches on the other side. So this is the existing historic house. You can see the addition that's going to be put on the 2nd floor on the back of the house. The existing 1st floor plan is here, and it really remains intact except for some minor renovations on the interior. When we go up to the 2nd floor, We're going to do some reconfiguration of bedrooms here, but we're primarily, this is the back wall of the house. We're adding a new owner's bedroom with a closet and a bathroom on the back that sits above the first floor. And then up on the third floor, we have an existing loft area with a bedroom, and we're adding a bathroom dormer on the back of the house that overlooks the backyard there. The elevations for this house, you can see the proposed front elevation. We're putting a slightly smaller window in the existing bathroom there. The side elevation here, which is the driveway side, you can see the deck on the back. This is the original side gable for the house. You can see the dotted line of the first floor roof, and we're adding a second floor dormer here for the owner's bedroom suite right there. If we go here to the back of the house, you can see the back of the house. This is the existing first floor as it is. You can see we added a new gable for the bedroom on the second floor, regular windows for the bathroom and the closets, and a small dormer up on the third floor for the bathroom at that point. This is the other side yard elevation, and you can see the slope of the existing roof on the first floor and our new roof here and the dormer up above. These are just the views of the existing house as it existed before. And I wanted to show you some photographs. This is the front of the house here. These were all copies of what was in your packet. This is looking from the neighbor on the left-hand side. This is the back of the house, and you can see this is where we're going to put that second story addition. Again, this is the driveway side of the house. Existing garage is to remain. The addition fills in that corner and shows you from the back how that fits as well. I think it's fairly simple, and it's a fairly straightforward proposal that we have here. We're doing a minimal addition just on the back of the roof below. We're maintaining as much of the existing house as possible and adding on with additions that follow the exact materials, details, and proportions of this existing historic house. Even though we have a small and an undersized lot that's 25 feet narrower than the minimum required for this area, we still conform with all of the bulk zoning for building coverage, lot coverage, and FAR. So the proposal we're showing you is under on building coverage by 5%. It's under on lot coverage by 3.3%, and it's under on FAR by 9.3%. And this is for a house and a lot that's 2/3 of the minimum size in the district. I think the improvements that we're proposing are very much in character with the established character of this historic neighborhood. We did get a unanimous approval from the HPC on this. It won't cause any detriment to the public good nor any impairment of the intent and purpose of the zone plan. And I think by matching this house very carefully and putting the addition on what is normally accepted as the best place for these type of additions on the back of these historic houses, that it really does advance the purposes of the zoning plan, and the benefits really substantially outweigh the detriment. So for these reasons and the drawings that we've submitted, we're requesting your approval, and I'd be glad to answer any questions any board members or the public may have.
Thank you, Mr. James. If you could end your screen share. Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. James? Steve?
Yeah, could you just please, I'm not sure if you talked about where the pool equipment would be.
I didn't talk about where the pool equipment would be. It's going to end up having to be pretty much in the middle of the yard. Let's go back.
And could you bring up the diagram
Let me
again?
bring that up.
Thank you.
In this case, it'll probably have to be in the middle of the back near where the pool is, or here adjacent to the existing garage. Given that we only have a 50-foot wide lot, the maximum it can be from any lot line would be 25 feet.
You can also, or it has to be 36 feet off the property line or within 5 feet of the principal building and in the rear yard. So you have that.
So then we might end up putting it underneath the steps at this
Right
point
behind your
here.
house.
Could you share? Could you share your screen and show us that?
Sure, I'm sorry. Let me go back here. So we could put it at this point here behind the house underneath the existing deck. That would be here on the rear elevation. Let's see here.
Either way, Mr. James, you're planning on putting in a conforming location, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Greg. That was part 2 of the question.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. James from board members? I hate to do this to you. Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
You're
Muted, Joe.
Still muted. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
I'd like to hear some testimony about the effect of this project on the adjacent neighbors.
Did you understand that, Mr. James?
I did not.
Joe is requesting, Joe, your microphone is really broken up, just so you know. But he was requesting some more detail on the effects of the proposed development on the neighbor's property.
It really doesn't have an effect on the neighbor's property. We're aligning with the existing side yards of the existing house. That's the only area that does require variance. It's being built over a portion of the 1-story. It's about a 12-foot extension off the house. It's very minimal relative to many of the houses around there because we are an undersized lot. And as I said, the FAR is 9.3% under for a lot that's already 33% under the minimum lot size. So we're talking about very minimal improvements to a historic house at this point.
Thank you. Joe, is that satisfactory?
Mr. James, have you spoken to the property department in the town regarding that large tree that I'm assuming is going to come down?
Mr. James, did you understand that question?
You're asking me if I talk to the, you're talking about this large tree right here?
Well,
yeah, sharing right now, but
where the pool's going to be, yeah.
The pool does not take out a tree. The, here, let me share my screen again. We are keeping the existing dogwood tree that's right here adjacent to the house. And the very large tree that you're talking about here in the backyard is much further downhill than where the pool is.
Okay.
Pool and terrace is being handled here. So we're not planning on taking down any major trees for our pool.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see.
any further questions from the board? In that case, any questions from the audience? I see none. Any comments from the audience? I see none. In that case, we'll close the public portion of this application. Board members, your comments?
I could support this application. You've got an exceptionally narrow lot here. To do anything would pretty much trigger the need for a variance. And I think that that the narrowness, really presents a big hardship. And I think that the benefits outweigh any detriments.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would add to that, I would add to what Jessica just said, that, there isn't any lot coverage or anything. There's nothing bulk wise that's being, that this is infringing on. So there's, the property could certainly, support this project, and I would be supportive of it.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Anything else? I too would support this application. I think it's thoughtful. It shows moderation and restraint, gives the homeowner what they need. Yet at the same time, we don't have FAR. We don't have the things that typically would kind of go along with it, with a lot that's of this character. So once again, I think it's thoughtful, and I would support the application. Anything else from any other board members? In that case, can I have a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jody.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Clayton.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And lastly, this evening, we have calendar 386422. Abdul Samili and Kuthuri, 2 Northbrook Drive in Short Hills. Sorry if I hacked your name up.
Oh, yeah. My name is Tarun Kothuri, one of the applicants.
How are you?
Doing good. How are you all today?
Does anyone else need to come over from the audience in regards to this application?
Yes, I have a few people in the audience who want to speak in favor.
Okay, but
Okay.
they're going to speak. They're not.
Right, but you don't have any professionals or anyone else that you would, okay.
We'll get to them in a minute.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead.
Sir, if you would just raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in tonight's hearing to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Could you just state your name, spelling your name for the record, please?
My name is Tarun Kothuri. That's TARUNKOTHURI. I'm resident at 2 Northbrook Drive, Short Hills, New Jersey.
Okay, Mr. Couture, why don't you explain to us what you would like to do this evening?
Yes. My family, me, my wife, and now 2.5-year-old son moved here 1.5 years ago. Love the neighborhood. And my son, who's grown up now, wants to play in the yard a lot. The house is surrounded by road on 3 sides, fronting on Northbrook Drive. One side is Silver Spring Road, but the main road, which is of issue here, is South Orange Avenue, which is a county road with 4 lanes of 50 miles per hour traffic. And we want to build a fence along the side and also put a gate along the driveway, which is on that side of the house. The main reason for this is child safety, like don't want our son running onto the street on that side. And also if he's playing with a ball or toys, we don't want them rolling or onto the road or bouncing onto the road, and it's also noisy. And we started a plan to build the fence, and we noticed that all the fences in the neighborhood are 6 feet high. So we would like to conform with the neighboring fences along the street to also build a fence of 6 feet high. And if I can share my screen, I can go over the plan, which is basically the same as what's in the application. 1 second. Yep, sharing screen. So it's a survey. This is same as what's in your application packet. This is a survey of the house. This is the front side, Northbrook Drive. This is one side, Silver Spring, which is more of an internal street. South Orange Avenue on this side is the busy road. And so the neighbor has fence along here on this side, and similarly across the street, there's a fence along the same line. We want to build a fence from fence along this side in line with the neighbor's fence, which will be 6 feet high, and then turn here. And this part we will leave it at 4 feet, not increasing any height, and turn around and put a gate along the driveway so that the child doesn't run out on the side. And this side is the front of the house. Same thing in the aerial view. Same thing on the plan. This is the South Orange Avenue on the top here. That will be north. Northbrook Drive here is the front of the house, and the side is the third side. So it is 3 sides road. So effectively, the entire backyard is like facing some road or the other. So we want to build fence here, and we also want to plant trees after the fence is put up so that it stays green, etc. And this side would be the gate and the fence. And the style of fence, which we are.
Mr. I'm sorry, Mr. Katori.
Yeah.
Where do you want to show? Where do you want to plant the trees?
Right along the fence.
Okay, on the side of the fence closer to your property?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the style of fence, which we are flexible on, is like we're trying. This is a image from the brochure, is to go with a white vinyl fence. Moving back here. Any questions?
Mr. Katori, what type of trees do you intend to plant next to the fence closer to the property?
Planning on evergreens.
And do you have any idea of how many or how high at the time of planting? How tall?
I don't. We'll probably go with like 4 to 6 feet. That way they can go higher.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question here. So that white line, the fence plan that you have, that's the area that you would put at 6 feet height.
Correct.
The curve, the yellow line, is the 4 feet height with the gates, which are the tilted, the open area between that. That's the gated portion,
Yes.
right? At 4 feet.
Yes, that's the gate. Yeah, and 4 feet.
Gotcha. Just one more question here. The fence plan, the white line that you have, how far would that be from the property line? Is that from the road and from your property line? Is that going to be at the edge of your property line with the South Orange Avenue, or is that a little inside?
On the property line.
On the property line, as per the survey.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And that it shows that because that's the line. It's covered by trees here, but that's where the neighbor's fence go along this side, and similarly on this side, it's along that line that all the fences on the street go.
Okay,
any other questions for this applicant from the board while we have this drawing up? Feel free to speak. Okay, you can take down the screen share, please.
So
No.
Craig, I just want to, because there's no denial letter with this, because I think they came in just with the application itself. But because they're on South Orange Avenue, our ordinance was amended recently, so it's not that we don't allow the fence. We would allow a fence on South Orange Avenue, but no taller than 4 feet. So the 4 foot that he's doing the gate, that's perfectly fine. It's just the portion he's doing along South Orange Avenue, which is restricted to 4 feet. The fencing is supposed to be, the landscaping is supposed to be, I guess, on the outside to kind of buffer it.
Right.
On the inside. So it's really just for the extra 2 feet.
The 2 foot height variance, right,
Correct.
on the fence.
And
Okay.
the landscaping.
Right.
And the landscape is outside. It's like on the street side of the fence?
No, I think he's.
No, it's in the yard.
He's putting the fence on the property line, so the
Okay, that's
screening
what
would
I
be
thought I heard. I
inside
got
the fence
confused
line.
got confused for a second. Thank you.
Yeah, but Eileen, did you say that planting on the outside of the fence is required?
Well, we require the fence to be landscaped in order to maintain a natural quality. So typically they're estate style or wrought iron, and we plant on the outside so they kind of blend in, or even on the inside.
Right, because that's clearly the case, with the neighbors. There's, your neighbors on your left and on your right have fences, but they have things on the outside between the fence and the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then your neighbor across the street also has, the plantings are such that you can barely see the fences from South Orange Avenue. And then your neighbor diagonal does not have a fence at all. So would you be amenable to putting plantings on the outside of the fence to shield the fence from South Orange Avenue?
Problem is you're putting plants in the right of way.
You can't do that.
Can't do that.
Okay.
The other thing that concerned me about plants out there is salt spreaders that come up and down that road would kind of annihilate everything. So unless he's going to move the fence back and then have enough room to plant in on his property, it might be hard to do that. Unless you're recommending that, Steve.
I'm not recommending that.
So didn't we have an application like this a few months ago too? Maybe more than a few months. In fact, it was just down the street on South Orange to the west.
It's actually on Old Short Hills Road.
Yeah.
It wasn't South Orange.
No, it was.
No,
Was it South Orange Avenue?
It was South Orange Avenue.
Literally just.
And Old Short Hills Road.
Just a few down.
Yeah.
And I believe it was the exact same or an extremely similar situation. It was a 6 foot request and we ended up just at 4 feet. Because there are a lot of fences up and down that stretch. And I think, like we noted back then, many of those fences appear to be 6 feet tall already, but they probably predate the zoning.
Eileen, did you say this was a recent change to making it 4 feet on the South Orange side?
Eileen,
question.
I'm sorry.
So sorry, I was just saying that, is this a recent change from 6 feet going down to 4 feet?
This was modified in 2018. It was modified in 2018 where we started allowing fences on county roads specific, and then South Orange Avenue is the only where you can do a chain link or a board on board, whereas on the other county roads you can't.
Gotcha.
But 4 foot was the height.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
So would you be open to moving the fence in and having the screening outside the fence, as I think Steve was alluding to earlier? Would you be open to doing that?
The main thing is, like, as Craig mentioned, like The other trees which are on the side, they don't really survive. They have something coming out of the plot line, like literally on the foot of the fence. So I don't know how they would go up on that side of the road. And we already have like 2 or 3 trees on that side.
Any other questions?
No.
I guess I would ask the applicant, I mean, is the 6-foot high fence that much of an advantage, or does it offer that much more protection, so to speak, than the 4-foot fence?
Mainly with like bouncing balls or stuff, I think that may go over if it is 4 foot versus 6 foot. And also it is very noisy. So you're hoping that the additional 2 feet will reduce some of the noise. Right now, even if we call out to our kid, he can barely hear us because of the traffic noise which goes on the side of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Any questions from the audience? Questions of this witness only, no comments, just questions this time. I see Car Paladugu's hand up, and this is for a question of Mr. Kothuri.
No.
Hand is down.
So I get that comment.
Okay, so now I will open it for comments. Okay, from the audience. Does anyone have any comments? Okay, there we go. You'll need to turn on your camera and unmute yours. Mr. Paladugo, you'll have to be sworn.
Just raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I swear.
Just spell your name for the record, please.
My name is Karthik Paladigu.
Spell your name.
It's a K as in King, A as in Apple, R as in Robert, T as in Tom, H as in Harry, I as in India, K as in King. Last name Paladigu, P as in Peter, A as in Apple, L as in Larry, A as in Apple, D as in David, U as in Uncle, G as in Goat, U as in Uncle.
And your comments, sir.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. What's your address, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. My address is 7 Lawrence Drive in Short Hills.
Thank you.
Yep. I live at 7 Lawrence Drive, which is close to Tarun Kothuri's house, and I've known the family ever since they moved here. And when I look at their application, all they're trying to do is try to conform to the neighbor's properties, which is at 6 feet already. I know that there has been an amendment wherein the fence size has been reduced to 4 feet, which I feel is an inconvenience for these guys, especially since their property is surrounded by road on all 3 sides. I feel that they need a little bit of privacy for their young kid to play in their backyard and be privacy safe, and also be as a safety concern for them. For that reason, I'm here to support their candidacy and also request the board members to consider that they have been put at a hardship because of the new changes to the zoning board application.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Say.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good.
My name is
Wait. Just raise your right hand, please. Do you swear from testimony you're about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name, spelling your name and your address, please.
First name S-A-I, last name N as in Nancy, A-R-A. I live on 30 Kilmer Drive.
What I'm sorry, wait. What is it?
30 Kilmer Drive.
Kilmore?
Yeah, K-I-L-M-E-R.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I live 4 or 5 houses away from Tarun's house, and I drive by South Orange Avenue literally on a daily basis in front of their house. And I know there has been a change in the ordinance recently, but one thing I was kind of surprised that Tarun did not mention in his case was there are a lot of walkers on that street by their property, and there is no sidewalk on their side. There's only a sidewalk on the other side. So literally people walk through their property, and 6 feet fence would actually make sense from a security standpoint. I know the other side is still 4 feet, but where they're going to have a gate, but doesn't mean they don't protect the other side. And on that street, literally like we have 7 or 8 houses on Short Hills, and beyond that is all Livingston on one side and South Orange on the other side. And most of those houses already have a 6 foot fence already. So I don't know what other houses we are protecting anyways by having a 4 feet versus 6 feet. So it really helps in these people's cases, my opinion. I just wanted to mention that. And even the type of fence, the white color that he has is already there on the corner house or the second house from between Old Short Hills Road and South Orange Avenue, their street. So it seems pretty consistent to me.
Yeah. Anyone else with a comment? I do not see any more, so we will be closing the public portion of this application. Board members, what are your comments?
Mr. Chairman, just to advise the board, it appears based on the evidence that's been presented as part of this application that this would not necessarily be a C1, but rather a C2 application, where the applicant needs to demonstrate that the purposes of municipal land use law would need to be advanced by a deviation from the ordinance, and that the benefits of the deviation from the ordinance would substantially outweigh any detriment.
Who would like to start?
Well, in that case, I think that it could absolutely support the C2 variance. For both of those reasons, we've got a security issue, we've got a noise issue, and I think that it would be more beneficial to have a conforming fence. And by conforming, I mean what's matching up with the neighbor's 6 foot high fences versus having it be 2 feet lower. I don't think that there's any detriment whatsoever to having it be 2 feet higher. I don't think that you're going to even notice it from the road when you're zipping down zipping down the street. So I could support the application.
Thank you, Jessica. Chandra?
I agree with what Jessica said. And in addition to that, also the safety, the family's safety issue. I would say that that also further strengthens the case, and keeping it consistent wouldn't harm anyone. I don't think it's detrimental, and it just keeps with the consistency across that road. Don't think anybody observes it, but it just stays consistent anyways. So I could be supportive of the application.
Thank you, Steve.
I did note that the other fences are not white. I don't know if maybe they used to be white or they're not white anymore, but they're all kind of a taupe or kind of a beige. And my thinking is that if that were the color of the fence, it might sort of meet more in conformity with the other fences. But I mean, a white fence, I think, would really stand out, in contrast to something that was a little less, white.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? I guess I'll go. So I know Wolfgang mentioned that other application, but like I said, that was on Old Short Hills Road. I looked at Old Short Hills. Which one? Maybe I'm not talking about the right one.
It's 978 South Orange Avenue. Chaldasani.
978 South Orange Avenue.
Yeah, and it's on South Orange. same side of the street, of course, and just more to the west.
We approve it?
I think I'm seeming to recall that it was a larger stretch of fence they were looking to put in, but I don't have the application in front of me, so I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so I sort of go along with what Steve's saying. I don't necessarily have an issue so much with that, but I'm not a big fan of the white vinyl. I think I'd rather see a board-on-board type fence that's maybe fits in a little bit more with the environment than a white vinyl fence. But as for the extra 2 feet in height, you know, I'm not terribly, object to that. I think there's a smaller run of fence and it sort of fits in with the corner. So, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I could support a board on board or something along those lines as opposed to white vinyl.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I agree with both of you. I think that style of fence definitely would look better as you drive down the street. But the height I'm okay with, the 6 foot.
I could support that proposal as well.
Mr. Gathura, do you have any objection to a board-on-board fence as opposed to white vinyl?
Just to clarify, by board on board, you mean like a wooden fence?
Wooden fence, correct. 6 foot wood.
No, we are flexible on that. We just picked something out of the brochure.
Okay.
We are not
Yeah,
particular
it's
about that.
readily available.
And not white.
Right, yeah, not white wood, but obviously just a natural wood tone.
Natural wood tone. Yes.
Then in that case, is there a motion considering that requirement?
As a condition of approval of an
As a condition, correct.
That the style be, the fence
Modified? Right, the 6 foot fence would be a board on board wooden fence with a natural wood tone.
Right. I so move.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Chandra with a second.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg,
No.
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 Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutoras,
No.
Chandru Harjani,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Craig Claytoner.
Yes.
Right.
Good luck with your fence.
Thank you.
Is there anything from the audience they would like to discuss that's not on the agenda for this evening? I do not see anyone raising their hand. So in that case, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Enjoy your evening, folks.
Thank you, Craig.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Good evening.